Good morning, Ken. How are you today?
I'm fine. Jump right in there, buddy.
Awesome. Great. We're going to be posting directions on how to get into the hands-on lab in the chat window. So
Okay,
thanks so much for coming today.
no problem.
All right. Good morning, Ramel. Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Yan.
Some of our instances and how those are defined and really how.
Okay, for the folks that just joined here, if you can go to the chat window, we're actually putting in credentials for you or giving you guys access to the hands-on lab portion of the session. Open up a guest browser, it's usually the best one. Go to portal.azure.com and then use those credentials to get in, okay? And when you actually get into the lab, please come back to the chat window and just type in GTG for good to go. Good morning, Mark. So Mark Lester, Romel, Tom Boone, okay. Just for, you may be hearing me say this a few times, and we'll start about 2 to 3 minutes after the hour to let other people get in. But for those who are joining, if you go to the chat window, we'll post your name and then we'll give you access. For those who are just joining, good morning, Eric, or good afternoon, depending where you're at. We're posting directions on how to get into the hands-on lab in the chat window, and each person has their own access, okay? Make sure that when you're going, open up a guest browser, go to portal.azure.com, and then use those credentials to get in. Good afternoon or good morning, Alexander.
Good morning.
How are you today, sir?
Good, thanks. How about yourself?
Excellent. Yeah, we're going to give you some credentials and how to get into the hands-on lab portion. Alexander, if you go to the chat window.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then when you're in, just come back and say good to go.
All right.
Good afternoon, Chris. Good afternoon, Yan.
Hello.
Yeah, so for Chris, if you can go to the chat window, we're going to give you guys some credentials to get into the hands-on lab portion of the session today. Okay, now after you follow those directions and you've gotten into the portal, please come back to the chat window and type in GTG for good to go. And then I can, as I just put in there, and then I can make sure everyone is in the lab. And then we can kind of get started. So Ken, good job. Thanks, Ken. All right. The great James Todd is here. Good afternoon, James. Kent and Michael. One moment. I'll be right back, everyone. I'm just going to answer this quick call.
You're on mute.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're posting credentials for people who are just coming in here. It's first come, first serve. Looks like we should have enough for everybody. Make sure that you click on the chat window, and we're going to be providing credentials. And after you're in, type in GTG, good to go, and then we'll get started here. We're just about 2 more minutes, and we'll get moving. All right. A lot of people putting in GTGs. Awesome. Yeah, open up a guest browser, go to portal.azure.com, use those credentials, and get into there. In the meantime, maybe, you know what I'm going to do? I have a poll here that will help me kind of level set where people are when it comes to Azure. Like, what is your experience with Azure? It'll really help me. So let me go ahead and push launch. So if you could just click on that poll and just maybe answer that one: beginner, intermediate, advanced. Really helps me understand that. Thank you everyone for participating. So while we're getting into the lab and talking to these polls, let me just kind of introduce myself. My name is Sherman Crancer. I'm your lead facilitator for the day. We have Phil Kent. He is your moderator for the day. He'll be moderating the chat, allowing people to talk, answering questions, helping out with that. Philip comes from 20 years in the Marine Corps. We've got a master's in Homeland Security and communications. We're really proud of his service here, and he's helping out. So just want to introduce Phil there. So today, welcome to the Azure Virtual Machine and Compute Hands-on Lab. It's kind of an introductory course here. Just to give you a little background on myself, my name is Sherman Crancer. I spent 5.5 years as a Microsoft account executive. Not account executive, but an executive over there. So we'll get you there, Shri. Hey, Shri, good to see you again. So I spent about 5.5 years at Microsoft. We left in 2019 and started my own company called Azure Direct. And what we do, actually, we are the lead Azure Immersion workshop facilitator for Microsoft. So I'll show you right here. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen. Just 1 second. Let me end the poll here. And thanks everybody for doing the poll. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get on one. And I'm going to put a link in here so you guys can see this. We actually teach 36 courses a month for Microsoft, where they actually they send all of their corporate enterprise clients, as you can see here in the workshop. We teach AI, analytics, cloud native apps, data modernization, infrastructure migration, .NET modernization, Windows Virtual Desktop, and cloud security. These are the things that we actually teach on. These are typically 3.5 hour to 7 hour classes. The Kubernetes is a 7.5 hour class, which I would tell you, be prepared. That one is a tough one. It's a tough one. Today, we're doing Azure VM and Compute. So what we're going to be doing is a lighter version. The way I look at it is more of an introduction to getting into Azure. One of the things that you're going to hear a lot of me saying today is it's all about risk aversion. Okay, now everything I'm going to be telling you is what we tell people at Microsoft. We help train Microsoft, even employees, but all their customers from corporate to enterprise space. We have a very clear directive when it comes to Azure, and that's all about security. It's all about risk aversion. It's all about data optimization, optimizing your environment. But once again, coming back to risk aversion, I'm going to say this over and over again. And what I really mean by that is what my job here today is to teach you, run you through a portal, but also to allow you to leave knowing that there's certain things that you should do to make sure that your environment is secure, but also ensure that your reputation and or job is not going to be lost because you didn't know what type or what size virtual machine that you could possibly sign. And then the next thing you know it, you provision something that is $12,000 a day, right? And it happens. A recent story of a client of ours got hacked for Bitcoin mining. They came in and they took over the machines. And so today I'm really going to be talking about how to secure the environment, how to get into it, what to do, what to think of, how do you do it. And it's going to be classically trained. So I'm going to show you exactly how we do this at Microsoft every single day. Okay, this is the format of what we do. We're going to be talking about resource groups as number one. Next is going to be virtual network. Then it's going to be availability sets. Then we're going into deploying an actual virtual machine. Then we're going to talk about deploying a recovery services vault for virtual machine backup. And then lastly, we're going to hit on network security groups, inbound and outbound security rules for people in there. We'll also touch on And today we're going to touch on optimization of your current environment. We're going to touch on licensing, a little bit like how to get licensing, how to do it the right way. A lot of people are really confused about that, right? And we'll also talk about hybrid use benefit and reserved instance. These are all like big, huge minefields that if you don't understand them, you could really put yourself in risk. Now, if there's anything anyone else wants me to touch on, please click on the chat window and go ahead and type it in there. Because I'm a good resource generalist in most things. I mean, I don't know everything. There's over, I don't know, 5,000 workloads, but I can certainly help drive that. So if you have any questions specifically, please help me out. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. We'll put you on mute, Yan, just for a moment. All right, there you go. Okay, awesome. I was like, what? All right. So now there's 3 ways of learning here. Okay, there's one that is death by PowerPoint. I'm classically trained at making sure I can put you to sleep. I spent 5 years at Microsoft. All we did is make PowerPoints. But we're not going to do any PowerPoint slides today. How do you like them apples, right? We're not. That's one way of learning, and I think it stinks. Second way of learning is just watching me do it. Okay, now some of you may want to do that today, and that's fine. But I much prefer if everybody did the third way of learning, which is attention to this called customer immersion experience. Okay, and what a Microsoft customer immersion experience is where we invite between 15 and 20 people, right, to a lab, and we basically say, hey, you know, we're going to give you credentials. You're going to get inside of a sandbox, and then you're going to follow my lead. I'm your facilitator, right? So I'm going to run you through 6 exercises. And your job as an attendee, right, is to click on where I'm telling you to click. Hey, click over here, click on this, look at that, right? That's what we want you to kind of start to experience today. And why this is going to be more great is because you're going to learn by doing. And that's the cool thing. Learn by doing, right? Learn by doing. And that's what we really want to help you out. We also will have a workshop offer at the end of this. If you're interested in Cloud Journey workshop to have to figure out like where you start today and where you go, no problem. We'll help you out with that. With that being said, I think that's the intro. Once again, and I want to stress this. Please ask questions. Raise your hand. It's not a big deal. We have a smaller class. I can answer those. Number 2, please, when I ask you to come to say you're good to go, that's helped me go from exercise to exercise. Please come back to the chat window and be like, GTG, that's all I'm looking for, you know, GTG, or ask questions. Or if you have an error, okay, with something that's going on, raise your hand, no problem. The cool thing about having errors actually in this, so don't feel like you're embarrassed, is that everybody gets to learn because nothing's ever perfect, right? Nothing ever just goes 100%, right? And sometimes there's just tiny issues, okay? So just let us know. All right. 12:09, right on time. Let's get started. Okay, everybody should be here at this where you see my, let's see, and you can see my screen, right? The Azure portal. Can I just get one yes from somebody? Yes. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, so we're gonna do a tour. Well, let's talk a little bit about Microsoft in general. You know, Microsoft, a lot of people don't know, you know, they're competing right up with Amazon. I mean, you even know that, Amazon Web Services, but a lot of folks don't know the footprint or where it kind of Azure evolved from. So 10 years ago, really kind of Azure came out. Microsoft is always very conservative. They're kind of thinking about this. And before Microsoft even came out, or before Azure really came out, I remember before I went to Microsoft, I actually tried deploying a virtual machine, you know, Frankenstein, and they only had 3 services back there. Infrastructure as a service, which was very basic. Platform as a service was basically web hosting, right? This was like 7 years ago. And then they had some software as a service stuff in there, right? But I remember when I deployed it, because it didn't have a wizard, didn't help me out, you know, I deployed this Frankenstein machine that just didn't really evolve and I could never get it to work. Fast forward to today, you know, you go from 3 services, you go from now, there's 12 core services that Microsoft provides. Then there's 158 secondary workloads, 878 tertiary workloads, and there's over 5,000 quad. I don't even know what the quad is, but the fourth level. It's crazy. And the reason why it's crazy and it's gotten so big is because Microsoft allows independent software vendors to create things that help make those main services go faster, quicker, better. Okay, that's really what it is. Now, the footprint for Microsoft is they have 48 data center regions across the world. Okay, and they have over 190 2 data centers, okay, which is more than AWS and Google combined times 2. Think about that, combined times 2. The second thing I think is really interesting about Microsoft is their security posture these days. So they all know that Microsoft realized that, look, it's no longer the brick and mortar, it's no longer the moat, right, and the drawbridge, because now you've got fighter planes, with attackers. I love Phil's, they have attackers on there, hackers that are just dropping bombs via the application layer, right, into your thing, identity, phishing, blah, blah, blah. So Microsoft, number 2 tech company in the world. A lot of people don't know that 99% of all software and hardware companies that are in security actually go to Microsoft for all the patches and updates. You know that. So what Microsoft has done is the first thing they did to help mitigate phishing and identity and geolocation spoofing was they wrote an algorithm that basically says, hey, look, if you're coming through a Tor or an Onion browser, you're trying to spoof your IP address or your geographic location, right? They say, no, sorry, that's over, right? You don't get access, just simply as that, you don't get access. And the second thing that they did is if you turn on advanced threat protection inside of your M365 environment, they turn on phishing, right? And they turn on the AI functionality. So it scans every bit, just like an airport scanner, you come through, right? They scan every bit of every attachment, every link, right? Anything that could potentially be a known threat. And if it, and they do it in milliseconds. And if it compares to a known threat that they already know about, okay, they automatically quarantine that message. Okay, and then they provide you the alerts and updates behind it for remediation. Really cool. So they're really making a turn inside of security. Okay, I just want to kind of mention those 2 things and those things about Microsoft. Azure is just so cool. I mean, you can do so much with Azure, infinite amounts. It's not easy. It's not cheap. Well, not I say cheap, but it's very economical if you understand how to do it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is really understand it. Okay. Now, let me ask you a question about licensing, okay? Or let's talk about licensing. So there's confusion about licensing out there. So I think there's 3 ways, well, there's 4 ways of licensing. No, it's 3 ways of licensing right now. One is the enterprise agreement. Okay, now the enterprise agreement is with a company that has typically over 600 users, okay? And that turns into corporate or enterprise, corporate agreement, corporate enterprise agreement. And those agreements are typically 3 years long, okay? And they make you commit for 3 years on the stuff. It was actually designed for on-prem servers, not necessarily for cloud. Now, my guidance and the guidance I teach every single day is to get off that EA agreement as quickly as you can for your cloud products, not for your licensing, not for your on-prem licensing, but your cloud products. Those should be bought through a different route to market. So, and just only because the cloud is elastic, you can go up, you can go down. Why would you ever, buy something on 3 years? And actually, this is the first question I'm going to ask. This is a quiz question, okay? And I'd love to see if anybody can answer this. What was the only technology in the past 5 years that has gone up in price instead of being downward pressure by what is the only technology right now that has gone up in price? Has gone up in price by like 300% from 10 years ago. Let's see if anyone can answer that. Go to the chat window and put that in there.
iPhone.
iPhone. That got yesterday, this morning, iPhone. Yeah, that scene has gone up, right? But graphic cards, Alexander's right. Actually, Alexander's perfect. Okay, the NVIDIA, right? That's really the only technology. I mean, everything else, memory's gone down. Cloud storage has actually gone down quite a bit. If you look 5 years ago, it's gone down quite a bit, but graphic cards have the only thing that's gone up. So if you look at the price of Azure 5 years ago or 3 years ago and look at today, you're looking at about a 30% rate of reduction. So why would you buy on an EA agreement cloud? Just don't do it. That's okay. Second route to market is called pay as you go, directly to Microsoft. Okay, and that's okay. You can do that. Now, but the thing is with that, you get MSRP. Okay, that's it. You're paying for what it costs, but your technical support is what really stinks. And I teach this every day, so they know that my opinion. It does, because when you open up a tech support ticket, you go to a third world country, and then you go to another third world country. Then you, I think, always land in the Philippines is the last one. Then you get to the U.S. right to where you're getting, and that's a terrible route to support tickets. And if anyone here has actually ever tried to open us, Microsoft doesn't want to be in the business of support. They want to be in the business of creation, but they don't want to. So that's pay as you go. Not bad, okay? But there's also nobody really there to help counsel you, okay, on what to do and how to do it. Now, the third way is called the CSP model, Cloud Solution Provider Program. And this is where you'd work with an independent Microsoft certified partner, gold type of partner. Now, the beauty of that route to market is called CSP. You buy, it's on a monthly subscription. So you're paying the partner pays Microsoft, so the partner takes on the responsibility of the bill. But you can get it at a discounted rate, right, from what you're getting on MSRP. Number two, you can get guidance on how to do it the correct way. And number three, it's a month to month, but your support is the best, because these Microsoft certified partners that are in the CSP program, they have direct access into the US tech support market. And so if you think of those three ways of doing it, CSP is probably the best way of doing anything, because it's elastic, it's portable, it's easy. You don't like this one partner, you can go to another partner. That's my guidance for you. So with that being said, I'm going to put another poll here. I'm curious to see if we understand. Let's see. Let's see, 1 second. I would be interested to see anybody here actually purchasing licensing through CSP today. I'd be interested to see if anybody is. Okay, so this is kind of trending towards what I thought, right? Yeah, a lot of times. And there's another thing called optimization that we're going to talk about a little bit today, how to optimize your environment from a pay-as-you-go to a CSP model. And we usually find about 20-25% rate of reduction on that. So everyone, thanks so much for let's see, Cloud Solution Provider, CSP, Cloud Solution Provider Program, Yijing. That's what it is. And that means that a Microsoft partner actually has an account with Ingram Micro, right? And they buy the licensing and they provision it to you. Very simple. It's Microsoft is really driven by their partner base. So look at that. So I'm going to share their poll here. A lot of people don't even know what CSP is doing today. So I'm glad that I help educate you on this one small poll. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. So everybody here is on the page here. Let's go ahead and do this so we have some extra time. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to do a tour. We're going to go from the top right-hand corner. We're going to go all the way left, and then we're going to go down to the left. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to click on who you are today. So my name, I'm info at Azure Direct, right? When I click on that, okay, when I click on info, it tells me who I am. Now, the reason why I'm asking you to do this is because later on, I'm going to say, hey, go to your resource group, and that your naming convention is tied to your resource group. So if you're CIE 1, CIE 2, CIE 3, this is just an identifier. Okay, we're going to be using it a little bit later. Okay, so let me stop sharing that one. All right, next, what I want you to do is click on this feedback button right to the left of it. This is going to be the first and last time you ever click on this one. The reason why I say that is I don't know that this feedback box is actually monitored. No real way to get back to you. And it just says, if you need help, please call tech support anyways, right? So I don't, it's the last time you ever click on it. Okay, next, let's go ahead and click on the question mark button. Come on, let's go. There we go, there we go. Okay. So here's where you can open up your trouble tickets if you're not working with a partner or somebody to help you out with CSP, right? But then I told you about that, right? You kind of like, be careful. But now I want everyone to click in. It says view service health. And can somebody come to the chat window and let me know why this might be a good idea to go check out? Let's see if anyone can answer that. Why would this be something that you should check out? Maybe almost every time you sign in. Is the service available? Okay, that's a good one. That's really part of it. That's really the crux of it, really, Chris. What else could we find in here that would be good to have? History and performance stability. Yeah. So, okay, both of those. Let's talk about that. Thank you very much, Bill. Really appreciate that. Helps these things kind of go along a little better, and I'm not just staring into somebody into a thing. So, okay. So service issues. Okay, typically you'll hear it on the internet before you actually know about it, right? But this is where you'd be like, okay. So for example, if you see that, it's kind of an eye test, right? But I just see these are the 4 regions I'm looking after, but we could do all the regions. And what it's basically telling us is that there's nothing down. Yeah, there's nothing down in here. Okay. Now, however, earlier today, okay, this actually didn't come up. There was a service issue with the service health, which was hilarious because like, well, how do I go to service health if service health is down, right? But now if there is an event that happens, okay, this is where you go to get the remediation, the health advisory, security advisory, what they did to remediate the problem, because you're going to need that, okay? You need that documentation to have for security and compliance needs. You need to have documentation, right? Of what happened, why did it happen, right? You're gonna have to provide that report to somewhere. This is where you go to tell you what is going on, when it happened, what was the remediation and whatnot. Super important. A lot of people don't know where it is. This is where it is. Okay, let's go ahead and push X out of that. Okay, next I want you to go to the gear icon, please. Click on the gear icon. Now this is settings. Now this is your pro tip number 3 already. Number two. The way we set up our systems. Let me show you. Go to appearance, then we want to dock the menu and we want to give it a contrast. Now, I usually do docked, blue, keep it at none, and then I push apply. Now I close this out. And the reason why I do that is because I like to have my menu bar on the left-hand side, right? And I like to have a contrast. And then the stuff in white is in your production environment. Now, the other reason we do that is this home button changes all the time. It's always kind of moving around. There's more people who do things to it. It's confusing. And that's why we like to have, at least we know the menu is over here. This is how we navigate to a lot of the things that we need to do inside of Azure. Okay, cool. All right. Next is the bell icon. Okay, this is your activity icon. And the cool thing here is it tells us what's been going on, what we provisioned. So I was deleting some resources, but as you can see down here, we deployment succeeded, tells us what happens and we can go straight to the resource. I love this button. This is what we use all the time. I'm always checking this thing when we're doing, high-end deployments, right? Complex deployments that we need to get out. I need to figure out like what's going on or if there's an error, okay? Next to the left of that, the little notebook thing is basically your directories and your subscriptions. This is how you navigate into different subscriptions. We can switch out, but I'm not going to do that right now. We'll leave that alone. Okay. Now the next one is Cloud Shell, or your go ahead and click on that. Okay, so let me just talk about this real quick. Cloud Shell is there's 3 ways of deploying services to Microsoft. One is through the portal, which we're on right now, and then it comes with wizards. These wizards are not going to allow us to mess up. The second one is PowerShell, or YAML, or Bash. Okay, so depending on infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, what do you want to do, right? So what we're doing here, we can actually do all the coding. If we're really good at coding, awesome, right? Then we can do it that way. The third way is doing having a code editor like Visual Studio on your desktop, and then connecting that to Azure, doing your code, deploying it. That's usually more an app creation, right? Kind of looking at the JSON settings and kind of figuring out how that all works. So this is where you would go, okay, running scripts. We're going to be talking about a optimization script later on. This is where you would go to run that simple script to get telemetry. So you don't have to put an agent anywhere. You just get telemetry, what's going on. Okay, so let me do this. So let's go ahead and click X out of that. We're not going to go there today. Okay. Now our first exercise here, I want you to type in AVA. Don't push enter. Just say AVA. Okay. Now, what you see here are services on the left-hand side, marketplace on the right-hand side. Services are what Microsoft has deployed. Marketplace is what independent software vendors have created to deploy. But I like this because documentation is there too, right? So let's go ahead and kill that one. But let's type in virtual, right? Well, now we can see all the things that have virtual in it. So much simpler, quicker, easy way to find stuff. And we'll show you today, we're going to deploy one resource from doing it this way. Okay, but I do love the fact that it has documentation on the left-hand side. Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, it's good, good. Yeah, so this is cool, right? So this is cool. Also, if we had resources in there, it'd show us there. So that's what I love about the search button. Okay. Oops, let me go back. That was a little over clicking. Okay, now let's look at the menu. Okay, so many of you have already deployed resources inside of Azure. So many of you already know that sometimes you get stuck and you have to go to docs.microsoft.com, right? I mean, I think we all can do that. We all have to, I have to do that a lot of times. And what I hate about it is a lot of the stuff says, hey, create a resource. Your first thing, create a resource. But what's happened lately is they've changed this. Some moron, sorry to say this, but has totally messed this whole window up. So we actually don't use create a resource anymore, okay? Which we have a better way of finding things. Okay, so just that's a pro tip number 5. Don't really use this this changes a lot and it's confusing. Next is the home button, okay? We actually, our pro tip number 6 is we actually don't use the home button in production at Microsoft. We use the dashboard. Okay, so this is my opening GUID when I open up my Azure portal. And the reason why I have this here is I want to see all my resources that are in play, all my resource groups that I have, sign-in logs, right? Time, users, user groups, security metrics, all these different things that are inside of this, we're monitoring from this. Now, if you're in here with me, see where it says edit, click on edit. Now, the cool thing is I can pull tiles from the tile gallery, right? To bring in here, right? Or I can just manipulate things. I can manipulate that down to here. I can move this around. I can take my security metric, put that there, put the time there. I'm gonna kind of configure this a little bit, right? There we go. And I push save, and then watch this. Now this is my new view. This is what we use, okay? We don't use the home button. All right, next one. I want you to click on it. It looks like a little hamburger. It's called all services. Click on that. This one is where we go for the majority of our deployments because it's based on categories. So if you look on this left side, categories, compute category. Okay, you got all virtual machines. If I go down to AI machine learning category, there, love it. Always go back to overview. So we click on overview. We have virtual machines, virtual networks, Azure Active Directory, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now, next is resource groups. This is the fundamental first step for doing anything. And we're gonna get back to this, but I wanna make sure you click on it so you know when I say, hey, go to your resource group, go here, okay. Now, let's talk about cost management and billing for just a moment. Remember we talked about risk. Okay, every deployment that you have, every resource group that you deploy, you need to put and attach a cost management or a budget on it. Remember, cloud is elastic, but what happens if something just goes haywire and it keeps going and going and going, you don't know about it. You want to put alerts. You want to put, you know, I have upcoming invoices for the sandbox environment, right? $716, but I have budgets on this for at 1,000, right? That's my budget per month because we know our labs don't really hardly get there, and we know if something else happens, right? So step 1, we need to create this. Step 2, okay. And this is what's so important about this. And this is going to get to our step 2 is creating policies that don't allow people to get into your Azure portal. I'll tell you that in just one second. Next one is Security Center. Security Center is kind of cool. It gives you a lot of updates and workbooks and different things that we can run for security in that. But let's, there we go. Subscriptions, assess resources, blah, blah, blah. And that one is wrong because we have secured it. Okay, so let's click on resource groups. Okay, so let me explain something. So actually, can somebody here give me what they think a resource group is? Or maybe how about this? An abstraction layer, multiple resources. Okay, let's keep going with that. Anyone else? Would you guys like me to explain it to you in both laypersons and technical? I need somebody to say yes. Okay, Omar, good one. Okay, Various level of access. Okay. So I'll give you the construction story. So we got two buildings that are being made. They are right next to each other. And the buildings are, it's the same company, but two separate buildings, right? They did some cost structures. One building has all of your materials on the bottom. They have the people, they have the equipment, right? They have all that stuff there. Next building, similar thing. They're in a little bit different stages, but they have all the same thing. But they do not have, well, it's not access groups, Chris, hold on a second. They don't have fences around their construction. So what happens? That means anybody can come in there, right? Anybody can turn things on and off, right? The machinery. But number two, all of the materials from both locations can start getting mixed up, right? We don't know what thing is. So what a resource group is essentially putting a fence around both of these construction projects, where only the things that are associated with this one resource group is inside of that. Though all those things that they're using there, the material, the time, the labor, the equipment, is used to build that building. Okay, so what a resource group is a logical grouping of resources that are helping provision the main workload that you're doing. That's a technical term. So if we're creating a virtual machine, we want to create a resource group just for that virtual machine. If we want to create a data warehouse, modern data warehouse, we're going to create a resource group just for modern data warehouse, and everything that we're deploying goes into that same thing, right? If we're creating cognitive services chatbot RSG for a resource group. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a security thing. Here's a security tip for you. Majority of people that we talk to, they allow access on a master level to the Azure portals. They think, oh, well, our people need to have access to get in there and deploy stuff. I would never do that. I think that's the biggest way of just getting breached, and just really causing problems. You want to have your administrator, obviously, of access. But what you want to do is you want to create a resource group based on whatever you're going to be doing, and you only want to give access to certain people to that resource group. Okay. So for example, if you look at your resource groups, your screen is different than mine. You only have access to one resource group. That's all I gave you access to. But I also put policies in place that would preclude you from turning on a Bitcoin mining machine. Okay. So if you think logically, you have your top layer, right? But then you have the second layer of access. Top layer is your global admins and your admins and people are doing that. But your second layer, you just base it on the machine or what you're doing, the project, and you give people that, but then you also put the policies in place and layer down. So you don't have a problem. Okay. That's how you got to do it. You only allow people in and access to certain types of resources that are provisioned based on the project that you're on. Okay. Then you turn on multi-factor authentication, SIG-on, facial recognition, and all that kind of stuff to do that. But the second most important thing is the policy based on virtual machines. So let me just show you. Look at my screen. I'm going to go to CIE 4. Okay. And I'm going to go to individual access controls or management access controls, RBAC controls. Right. So if I click on access controls, okay, you're going to see, let's go to role assignments. So here are the role assignments, right? That they're actually that are provided to those. They're only contributors. Okay. I'm going to check the access. So these are the access points that we're actually allowing them to get into. But the other thing too is we can basically say they can only create, policies. Let me go down to policies here. These are the policies that I actually created for these individual accesses, right? So you see here, see this says allowed virtual machines. I created this so that you couldn't create maybe somebody who really knows what they're doing could do this, but basically it's there so that you can't create a Bitcoin mining machine, right? Not a lot of resources. These are certain resource types that you're not allowed to actually do. So what's super important, and what I really want to kind of talk about today is really understanding the security aspect and starting out correctly and foundationally, okay, how to do this. Everything I'm going to teach today is about risk aversion, okay? Because what happens if you didn't have these in, somebody gets in, somebody creates a Bitcoin mining machine, boom. I say that because I counseled a partner on that happened, and it was really unfortunate. Okay, awesome. So let's go back to resource groups. So does that help the way I explained it? If I can just get a yes or a thumbs up. Resource group, fundamental first step. Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, thank you, Chris, appreciate it. Okay, so we've created a resource group for you. So that's usually that's the first exercise, okay, is to always create for anything you do. So I'm gonna create a chat bot. What do? I create a resource group first, and then I put everything inside it for the chat bot. Simple as that. Okay, so we've done that. Fundamental first step, resource group, we've got that. Number two, we need to create a virtual network. So let's go ahead and get this done. Let's start with all services on the left-hand side. See where it says the hamburger? We're gonna click on that. We're gonna make sure we're in the overview category. And see where it says virtual networks? We're gonna click on virtual networks. Okay, so this is basically your gate to your resource group, okay? That's the way to look at it. It's your security gate to get in. And we're gonna make sure that we create one the correct way. Okay, so let's go ahead and where it says create, go ahead and push create. And then the wizard is gonna come up. Okay. Now a couple things here, if you notice, these are called blades, these pages. So this is blade 1, this is blade 2. I'm saying this because some Yahoo decided to name it this way, and all of your docs.microsoft.com will be kind of going about, they'll talk about this. So blades. Okay, now we're in this blade. Okay, so the first thing that this is a wizard. It goes from basics, IP addresses, security, tags, and then review and create. So on the basics page, the first thing we're going to do, we want to make sure the subscription says Microsoft Azure. And then we want to do resource group. So I want you to go down and select the one that's associated with you. So if you're CIE 6, CIE 7, you'd put that in there. I'm going to click on Info RSG. That's mine. Now notice the naming convention, RSG in capitals. You always want to do that based, so virtual machine, RSG, chatbot, RSG, data warehouse, RSG. Easy way to know where to go and how to find this. Okay, now we're going to give it a name. Okay, and this is going to be Demo Lab VNet 01. No problem. Okay, Demo Lab VNet 01. All right. Now let's get to IP addresses. So the beautiful thing about this is they've already created IP addresses for you. But we're not going to accept that. We want to create our own. So we create some muscle memory here. Okay. So I'm going to go trash that one. Okay. And now we're going to put in 10.2.0.0/24. As you noticed, when I had 20, when I did 2, it says it's not a valid CEDAR block, right? So, okay. All right. 24. Take it easy. If you have a green check mark, you're in good shape. Now, go to add a subnet. Subnet name, Demo Lab Subnet. 10. I'm going to put it here, .2.0.0/26. There we go. I have a check mark. Then I push add. Okay. All right. Now we're at it. Good, 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 good. Now let's go to security. We're going to leave all these things default. I will tell you, if you have a, hundreds of thousands type of website, you need DDoS protection, but it's not cheap. It's like $800 a month. So be careful. And please don't put this on right now. Okay. Next is tags. We're not going to do tags today, but this is where you can start tracking things. Tags takes about 15 minutes to explain. So next, just go hit review and create, and there's going to be validating. Then running validation says validation is passed, and I want you to push create. Now, when you're done, It says deployment in progress. When it says deployment complete, I'd like you to come back to the chat window, please, and just type in good to go. This is our first exercise. This is how I make sure that I get everyone to land the plane. Alexander, Chris, Omar, thank you, thank you. I'm going to wait a few more minutes. Awesome, 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 awesome. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we get that. Okay, so now what is next? Well, we need to create an availability set, okay, because we need to spread the risk of our virtual machine, whether it's being updated or whatnot, spread the risk of it being down, okay? So let's go ahead and go to the search bar and type in AVA. It says availability sets. Please click on availability sets and then click on create. Okay, now we come to another wizard, right? Blade 1, Blade 2. Okay. Okay, Eric, okay, that's interesting. Go to all services, see where the all services is. Click on that. And then make sure you're on overview and type in AVA here in the search bar, and you should have availability sets. Do you see that? Cool. Hey, you know, every once in a while there's a gremlin in the machine. So now push create. All right, Eric. Okay, now we're at availability sets. Okay, make sure. Now remember, I want you to select your resource group because we put that virtual network in that resource group. And now we're doing the same thing here. We're putting this availability set in that resource group. Info RSG. Okay. Now that we have it in there, now we need to give it a name. AVA set 01. AVA set, availability set, much easier. That's a naming convention. That's pretty cool. Okay. Now we want to over multiple fault domains. And the reason is virtual machines in the same fault domain share a common power source and physical network switch. So if they're doing, you know, if there's a problem and you're only on one, you're in a pickle. So we basically want to keep it at 2. Now there's also update domains. So if they're updating, restarting different things, you want to have it on 5 different ones so that you're not affected by it. So these are typically default, no problem. Yes on managed disks. Okay. Then we're going to click on advanced. Nothing in advanced that we need to worry about. Nothing in tags. Review and create. Validation is passing. And then I push create. Okay, good to go. I need some good. Oh, validation failed. Omar. Okay, what happened? Why don't you? Can we? Do we allow you to talk here? Hold on a second. Let's. Participants. Is Omar? Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm missing a resource group. I just review it. Looks like I did not put my resource group here.
Ah, okay. So for everybody here, including Omar, it doesn't allow you to create a Frankenstein using the wizard, right? And so that's good. And then you should be able to push validation and then push the final button.
That was an easy fix.
Okay, easy fix. All right. Thanks so much. Okay. Now that we've got the availability, so we have a resource group, number 1, we've created the virtual network, we've created the availability set. Now what do? Let's create the virtual machine. So go ahead and go to all services. Okay, and then click on virtual machines. Make sure you're in the overview section and click on virtual machines. And then we're going to create one. So create one, virtual machine plus. Okay, now we have a different blade. Now we're in the new blade. So this is the interesting piece. Okay, so this is where all the meat and potatoes are. Okay, and there's a few things in here that I'm going to really try to explain to you about pitfalls. There's some big ones in here. Okay, and I really want to make sure that everyone can walk away knowing some of these specific pitfalls that could cause a lot of trouble. Okay. So number one, put it in the resource group that you had. Okay. We're putting info RSG. Then we want to give it a name. Demo lab VM01. Okay. Perfect. That's good. Okay. Now the next one's region. We just keep that as closest to our current corporate office as possible. Okay. Now availability options. It says no infrastructure redundancy required. Well, that's a bunch of malarkey, right? We do. So click on that one and put on availability set. Next, you're going to have a new drop down and click on that AVA set. See that one that we just created? It's automatically populated there because we put it into the RSG and now allows us to do that. We want to make sure this VM is going to be put inside this AVA set 01. Okay, cool. Next, I want you to click on the image. Use the downward chevron. Interestingly enough, 53% of all machines inside of Azure are actually Linux-based. Kind of cool, right? I thought it was going to be way different. But today we're just clicking on the Windows Server Data Center, but I just want to show you, you can click on other ones if you wanted to, but we're going to create that image. Okay. Now this is pro tip number 7, I think, Azure Spot Instance. Now, Azure Spot Instance is unused resources that Microsoft has, so they'll discount it heavily. However, you can't convert that Spot instance into a production environment, so be really careful. This is just for dev and test. Okay. Now, this is the biggest mistake people make. Oh God, it makes me want to, it cringes sometimes. So let's just talk about building virtual machines and building servers out, right? For infrastructure as a service. So the majority of us have been in the business for a while and, pre-cloud, and the way that you built your servers are to have servers basically built with an extra 30 or 40% capacity. And we did that. Why? Because most of the applications we had were on-prem, they weren't online. However, we've seen a mass exodus of those programs, right? So you no longer have an Exchange server, right? That's in the cloud now. You no longer have a QuickBooks server, right? Or a virtual machine, maybe because you're using QuickBooks Online, just for example, right? A lot of these things have turned into software as a service, okay? So trying to take a look at what you have on your server or just, what your server requirements are right now and trying to compare that, doing a size to size, apples to apples comparison, completely wrong. Because you're not designing a cloud infrastructure like you designed when that was on-prem. Okay. Next, along those lines, right? The programs that we have on our current servers will not run the same in the cloud. And what I mean by that, it's not that they won't run the same, but we won't run them the same. So for example, a file server that you want to create, right, for backup, whatever, that you run 24 hours a day. It's access, doesn't really, not a lot of compute power to it. There's not a lot of stuff, right? So the cost is nominal. But what if you have a SQL server? And if you really look at the telemetry, you're probably only running that 2 to 3 hours a day. Reconciliation, 12 to 1 o'clock, 12 to 3 o'clock. And so you wouldn't want to run it that way. You wouldn't want to create a 24/7, 365 SQL server. That's going to cost you just ridiculous amount of money, okay, in there. So you have to understand what are the service workloads that you want to bring up to, how do you go about it, and then how do you price it? So let me just show you something. So click on to see all sizes, please. Everyone click on that. Okay, so let me explain this to you. They base them on predefined categories in Microsoft. They base them on letters. So it's going to be D, B, E, F, G, H, I. The D's and the B's are simple, general purpose, simple, basic virtual machines. You can start small, whatever. Why we have D4S V3, this is your pro tip, is D4S V3 allows you to access all of the Azure environment. If you do a B2, you can only access small portions of infrastructure as a service, right? So you start at D4S V3. Now, we also like that because A, we get all access, but B, it's about $200 a month. It's about that, okay, if you run it all day long, okay? About $200 a month, but it gives us access to all the other things that we want to do, okay? So this is where you should always start. So I always tell people everything should be a proof of concept. Whether you're moving from on-prem to the cloud, proof of concept. We start small, we test, we We test migrate. We start small. We make sure it works. Then we add. Because the beauty of VM sizing is I can just add more resources if I want, like that. Awesome, right? But this is the guidance. You start with a proof of concept first. This is what we're teaching here. We don't, it's risk aversion. Okay. You never want to try to say, boom, boom. You don't want to do that. It's terrible. Okay. But now let's think about this. Scroll down. These are based on category configurations. So what if you have, and then I need feedback here from the group here. I'm going to ask you, what series of machines would I go to if I had very highly intensive memory needs? I had a lot of video graphics, people accessing it, express route, but I got a ton of memory needs. Somebody can come to the chat window and tell me what series would I pick to start my journey down? What is pre-configured for somebody who has high memory needs? Eric, yes, E series. So everyone click on that E series. That's right. All right, good job. The E series here now says, okay, and look how the CPUs are atrophied, right? It's like a Tyrannosaurus Rex arm, right? And then you got the leg on the memory. So kind of cool there, right? So this helps you. So you start small, right? But let's say this is what you need to get into. This is where we go. Now, how about if I had high compute needs? Where would I go? Where would I go for high compute? H. So I'm going to H. Yep, high performance compute. Now look at this one. Now the reason why I call this out, okay, if you enable this one right here, okay, and you didn't have you allowed people to enable it, I think it's like 12,000 a month. Huge. We don't want to do that. We start small and we right size our environment incrementally. Okay. So I just want to show you that, right? So kind of cool. Okay. So now that we have that, let me just go ahead and I'll push select D4S V3. And then I have another thing I like to put in here. Let's see. Do you now understand how to size a virtual machine? This is really important to me. So I'm curious if everybody, how you feel about my explanation, and do you have a better kind of understanding of like maybe where to start? Awesome. Okay. Maybe in the chat window, did that clear up anything? Did that clear up some sizes? I just get some feedback to say, yes, that made sense now. Okay, perfect. Okay. It's challenging, right? Crazy. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now let's get back to the administrator account. So username, put demo user. Okay, that's going to be the name. Oh, I have it in caps. I like to actually, let me do it in no caps. So demo user, because it can be case sensitive, right? And then we need to give it a password. I'm going to put the password in the chat window. Okay, it's password 1 bang bang, password.1 bang bang. There, boom. Okay. Now let's talk about security. Okay. The next thing we do is we never allow, we were closing the gates. Okay, we're not allowing any inbound ports at the moment, but we're also going to allow RDP though. Okay, so the RDP is automatically allowed in there, so no problem. Okay, so none. Okay, now this is the other thing. Remember we did virtual machine sizing? This is the other thing that is just a wild thing that people just don't understand. Okay, and it's huge. So do a mental inventory of your current licensing that you have on-prem. Okay, so you have old data center licensing, 2012, 2009. You have old SQL servers. You have old, but did you buy those with software assurance? Majority of you do. They have software assurance. Have you upgraded those? No, you haven't. You kind of held on to the bitter end, right? Because there's a cost to it. I'm going to show you a way to reduce Azure and also get a free copy. So if you have an old server with software assurance, okay, and you click on this box, your cost of the Azure consumption model will go down by 49% because you already have the license, right? So that's number one super awesome benefit. The second super awesome benefit is after you deploy this virtual machine, you can download a copy of 2019 data center to replace your old copy of the 2012 data center for free. How do you like them apples? Okay. People don't know this. And now they're buying this. Now, if you're on AWS, holy smokes, you're buying licensing from, how do you prove that you have a license? Very good question. So we would, over here, you'd click on this checkbox and it says, I confirm. You have to check on that, right? And then there's compliance. So they're going to basically, there'll be a follow-up with that, that'll ask you for your server license, your SKU number. And as long as you provide that, and as long as you had software assurance on it, you're good to go. And if you need to know how to get that license number and whatnot, you would go to the Volume Licensing Servicing Center, VLSC, Microsoft Volume Licensing Services Center. God, I got a lot of random stuff in my head, right? And that's where you get a download of all your licenses. Okay, but we're not going to check this, so please don't check this for right now. Okay, because we don't have, I'm not going to do that. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, now my next poll here, I want to just make sure that we are good on the, let's see. Yeah, right, right. Okay, 1 second. Where's the hybrid benefit? Let's see. Okay, well, I'm just gonna assume we all kind of know, but look, Omar, that's the best way of looking at it. Like, oh my gosh, you actually see, the hybrid benefit, right? Okay, awesome. Okay, last thing, let's go to disks. Okay, we need to attach a disk to it. So we'll go from the OS disk, is good. Now, right below it says data disks. Click on create and attach a new disk. Okay. So we have data disks. We're going to leave this it's very simple, actually. We're going to leave this. We can change the size if we want, but let's go to OK. Okay. Now we have a data disk that's been attached to it. Awesome. We're good. Damn it, data disk is there. Now let's go to networking. Click on networking. Okay. So in networking, what's interesting is, remember, we already put this in the resource group. So it's already going to bring in that information. So see, it says virtual network. What is your VM? Well, Demo Lab VNet 01, right? And it says, what is your subnet? Our subnet got automatically populated. Then it also gave me a public IP address, which is blocked right now, but it's going to create one, but we're blocking it. Remember, we're going to block it. And then what I want you to do is NIC's network security group. I want you to click on advanced. The reason why this is an advanced, okay, is Demo Lab VM-NSG. It's going to create another service, a network security group, where we create our inbound and outbound security rules. Okay, so that's good. Make sure it's network security group, advanced, and that you see new Demo Lab NSG. All right, let's go to management. Okay, we're going to leave stuff in management alone, but if you had Azure Active Directory, you would click on that and RBAC assign role-based access controls, right? Backup site discovery. Let's go to advanced, go to tags, and then go to review and create. It's going to validate your machine. Okay. And then it's going to say validation passed. And now I can go and push create. A lot of talking today. This is my third lab, by the way, of the day. A lot. Okay, so now that you're here, okay, what I want you to do when you're in deployment is progress, come back to the window and give me a GTG because we need to create a recovery services vault. We'll give it a second or two, no problem. Great job, Alexander. Great job, Eric. All right, Bill, great job. All right, thanks for the feedback. So yeah, now it's just the deployment is in progress. It's putting everything together for us. Takes about 5 minutes, really, 4 or 5 minutes here. Thanks everybody for I really appreciate the answering the polls. It's just helpful for me so that I know that people are getting it and whatnot, you know, kind of getting there. Okay, awesome. Any more? Everyone else good to go? Even if you're in deployment in progress, you're fine. I just want to make sure that I'm going to get to the recovery services vault here. Okay, awesome. Okay, I'll take that as the majority. Raise your hand if you have any questions or you have any problems with the validation. Okay, now we need to create a virtual machine backup. Okay, a lot of people don't know about backing up virtual machines. Let's see. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense. That's a terrible, we got to change that poll. So a lot of people don't know that Microsoft has a 99.99. It's 2 nines on the first one. If you add Azure Active Directory, multi-factor authentication, and maybe have more availability sets or availability zone, it goes to 4 nines, right? But what that means is if there is something wrong with the Azure data center, it goes down. They have an SLA that says, look, you know, you're going to be up within about a minute or two. And if you're not up, we'll refund you the cost of that virtual machine for the time it is down, right? But all your stuff is safe. All your data is fine. Now, a lot of people don't know is, well, what happens if a bad actor gets into my virtual machine and blows it up? Or what happens if I have somebody that said, one of my employees that goes in there and messes it up, right? Well, if you don't have backup, you haven't enabled the recovery services vault, okay, you're in a world of trouble. So I'm going to show you here how to do this to keep you out of hot water. Okay, so I want you to go to the search window, please, on the top, and we're going to type in RECO, short for RECO, for Recovery Services Vault. Okay, now I want to click on Recovery Services Vaults. And I want to push create. This is a very simple one today. Okay, so when we created that one, it's basically going to say, okay, subscription, we're going down to our resource group. We're going to give it a name, RECO 01, RECO 1. And then we're just going to go to review and create. Very simple. Okay, now what that's going to do is create a vault that we're now going to direct the virtual machine to be backed up into. Okay, and this is going to give us version control for all of our stuff, or for the bad actors, right? Okay, so deployment's in progress, it's fine. Okay, now we need to go to our virtual machines. We're going to get into our VMs. We're going to do 2 things inside the VM, and then what we're going to do is actually connect to it. Okay, so everyone go to resource groups, find your resource group that you're in and click inside of it. Okay, now from this point of view, you see all of your resources. Remember all that we talked about, all of the things that are inside, we're building that skyscraper. These are all the things that are making our virtual machine work. So the second one down, you should have, and maybe it's the third one down, but it should say Demo Lab VM01. I want you to click into that. So now we're in our virtual machine that's been deployed. Inside of here, we see what resource group it's in. Is it running? What's the location? What is the subscription? Subscription ID, public IP address, right? And we can scroll down. Cool. Okay. Now, remember we created that recovery services vault. We need to back up this machine. So I'm going to show you where to do it, but please don't actually enable it right now because there's a soft delete issue because it keeps everything for 14 days and it causes me a serious problem. So go down to operations and click on backup. So we would select existing, right? It says recovery RECO 1, right? Now, please don't hit enable backup, okay? But right here it says full backup frequency, so daily, instant restore, retention of daily backup point. But we can also create a different policy if we wanted to. Okay, we could do that, right? So I'm gonna exit out of this. Okay. Now, what I want everyone to do, we need to. This is so important. Demo Lab VM, we need to go to the NSG network security group. This is where we need to create our inbound security rules. Okay, so once again, you're in your resource group, look for the thing that says -NSG network security group, click on that. Okay, and then click on inbound security rule. Okay, inbound security rule. Amazing. Okay, now we need to add one. Just click on the add, very simple. Okay, clicking on the add. And now what we're going to do is destination port. We're going to make it 80. That's what we want. We can do any destination point. Protocol action, allow, and then we're just give it a name. Demo lab rule. It's real simple. Okay, and push add. Now, as you can see, we actually now have the demo lab rule, which we can actually get into, right? But we've also allowed default RDP. That's fine. It's good. We're in good shape. Okay. Now, let's get into the virtual machine. Go to back to your resource group. Just go back to the breadcrumb. Just go back one. Okay. And let's go back into our virtual machine. Okay. I'm going to give everybody just a second to get back into your virtual machine, because now we're going to connect to it. I'm going to type in this password, PASSWORD.1, bang, bang. This is what we're going to be using in just a second. So I'm putting in the chat window. Okay. So if we're back in our virtual machine, let's go ahead and connect. Click on the connect button. It's going to say RDP. Click in the RDP. Download the RDP file. It's going to be right here. You can open it up. And you're going to ask to connect. Yeah, we're going to connect to it. So hold on, to timeout. So when you connect to it, now it's going to bring up credentials that are probably tied to your other machines, right? So we need to actually do more choices. We're going to use a different account. Go to more choices, use a different account. And this is where we put in demo user. And then we paste the password that I gave you, password.1 bang bang. And then we push OK. And yes to this one. Dun, da, da, da. You should have this blue screen now. And what's coming up, what you're seeing on my screen, okay, is the virtual machine, and the server manager is going to be coming up here in just a second. Do you want to allow your PC to be discovered by other networks? No, I don't want this. Okay, this is my server manager here. And just to verify, I like to go to the File Explorer window and make sure my data disk has been attached to this by checking on this PC. And then you see the data disks already in there. All right, who here? Okay, oh yeah, Omar. Okay, hold on a second. Alexander, why couldn't you, did you use demo user in the password? That could be it. It could be a company firewall, the RDP thing. Yes, yes. That's what I think is probably what is doing that. Omar, where are you? Just tell me where you're at, because I know I kind of moved kind of fast. You can come off mute.
Yeah, I'm on IU campus behind firewalls, university firewalls.
Oh yeah. You can't. Darn it.
Yeah.
But you got. Did you get to the stage where you're putting your password and all that stuff to be able to download the RDP?
No, it didn't even connect. It couldn't find the machine. It says remote desktop cannot connect to the remote computer for one of the reasons. Remote access to the servers is not enabled. The remote computer is turned off, or the remote computer is not available on the network.
Okay, That's almost 100% a firewall, or
Oh,
not allowed
yes.
to use that. Yeah.
I believe that.
Okay. But you did see the connect piece of it though, right? You know, to connect to it. You saw that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. How about everybody else? You guys make it this far? Give us a story. Tell us you did, or tell me you didn't. Let's see. All right. Good to go. All right, Eric, that is fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So we've done a lot today. We have gone through, we have gone through the tour of the portal, right? We've talked about cost management, right? Hey, Chris. Oh, I'm sorry. Cost management, right? We talked about securing your environment, right? The resource group, individual access management, right? Or identity access management using RBAC controls, right? We talked about policies. We talked about creating a virtual network. Then we did an availability set, spread our risk, right? Next was creating the virtual machine, right? And then creating a network security group and a recovery services vault. Then we did a virtual machine backup. Then we actually did our inbound security rules, okay? We did a lot today, just a ton of stuff today, which is awesome. I think it's pretty cool. And I think the majority of these things is understanding, the pitfalls. Now, let me talk to you about optimization. So if you are currently on pay-as-you-go model, like you're paying directly, we can run a script. And it's basically, it's so simple. We just open up PowerShell, it's a tiny script. And what that script does, it takes a snapshot of the telemetry inside of your environment, right? Nothing to do with what's on the servers or anything. It's just the telemetry. And then what we can do is create we take that report, I run it through Microsoft, the Microsoft portal, and it'll basically say, okay, these machines, you're paying X and you really should be paying Y. Okay, these machines you oversubscribe to, you have too many resources on this machine, you should be readjusting down, and you can say, right, so it's what it's called is optimization. It's optimizing the environment. And that's what's kind of cool. We can optimize it. And the script takes about 15 seconds. You copy and paste it right in there, and boom, it sits it out, and it will spit out a report down to your we create a file folder, in your file, and then you just send that over to us, and we can just take it and give you a report on what to do and how to do it, that kind of a thing. We also have a cloud journey workshop that we actually do for our for people through Microsoft. Microsoft can end up, in a lot of cases, Microsoft will pay for it, so there's no cost to it. But our workshop runs over 6 to 8 hours with a company where you can spend it over a couple of days, so it's not like thing. But one, we talk about business strategy first. Secondly, we talk about, let's look at your whole security posture. Like, what are you doing, right? Third is infrastructure, discovery. What do you have currently? What do we want to migrate to the cloud? What are your thoughts on migrating to the cloud? Finding the discovery on that. Next is business process optimization using the Power Platform. And then lastly, we actually create a report. It's called a cloud journey report, where over the next 6 to 12 months, you follow this report. What are the top 2 priorities, 3 priorities? And then probably between 8 months is where you're fully, you're or what you can be. You're optimizing the cloud based on what you have here. So I'm just going to put up a poll here. I'm not going to share the results because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. But if you're interested in the cloud journey workshop, just put yes or no, and you're not going to hurt my feelings if you're not interested in it. Just let me know, and then what we can do, I'll reach out to you and send you an invitation to just discuss it. And it's not intrusive by any means on those things. So just interested, yeah. Super simple. One thing I promise everybody I talk to is I don't come at this as a vendor because we get Microsoft to pay for a lot of that, right? But I come to it with, hey, we've got the experience, we understand what to do. Let's just go ahead and figure out what's going on in your environment, right? And let us see if we can help, and if we can't, we can't. But if we can, let's figure it out, no problem. So, all right. So we have a few minutes left here, and I can touch on another couple cool things. But Want to see if anybody has any questions. Please, I'm a generalist. I mean, a little more than a generalist, but I don't know everything here. But certainly have any questions related to the material that we talked about today. Maybe while you're formulating, Chris, did you get to the connect to the Chris Tasky? Did you get to the connect to the VM, or did you have to take a phone call and you're out of that one? Cool. Okay. Well, I think we have kind of a quiet thing. We did a lot today, though, man. This was fun, and thank you so much, everybody here for participating in this event. This is great. We have other events. We have the Power Platform event where you learn Power Automate, Power Apps. That's a cool one. Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI. We have that one. We have an M365 Security with Sentinel one that's available out there too. I'll give you guys some links to join those. Those are always jam-packed. You want to get here early though, because we have limited amount of demo lab environments. So make sure you do that. But I'm just going to say thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your time. And you can go back, take on your day. For those people who expressed an interest, I'll send you a calendar invite. If the invite doesn't work for your timing, don't worry about it. Just send me another time. We'll keep it casual. Okay. Totally keep it casual. Try to figure this one out. All right, everyone. Thanks again. Great day. Keep safe. Talk to you later.
Cheers.
Cheers.